Okay, there's a few things you're going to need to make this bread today. We've got 450 grams of strong white bread flour. Well, I've got organic here, but just go for a bread flour that you can afford. We have got 350 ml of tepid water. I've got 2 packets of dried yeast, so that's 14 grams of dried yeast in total. I've got some caster sugar, some salt. I'm going to be using a large white plastic bowl, but you can do this on the kitchen work surface if you want. A sieve to sieve your flour, and I've also got some rosemary and some nice extra virgin olive oil to go on the catch on and finish, but we'll do that in a bit. First of all, we're going to be doing the basic bread recipe. First of all, we're just going to sift the flour into that bowl. Okay, now I've got some tepid water here. Tepid water is about 38 degrees centigrade to 45. If you are worried about getting the right temperature for your water and you don't have a thermometer, then a trick that I've used in the past is if you so you've got 350 ml in total, but if you do 1/3 of that boiling water, 2/3 of that cold water, then when they mix together you'll have tepid water. That's the best way if you're not sure. I just kind of, because I've done it so many times now, I'm just used to the temperature that it needs to be, so I'll just get that straight from the tap. Okay, so I'm just going to put my yeast into the jug of water and just move that out of the way. And as you're working, just clear up after yourself, just so you've still got a nice tidy workspace, especially with bread, because you're going to be kneading the bread on the surface. You don't want loads of clutter. Okay, so now we're going to just whisk in the yeast into that tepid water. Okay, and now we're going to add roughly about 1 tablespoon of caster sugar. Or I would say just one generous chef pinch, which is probably about a tablespoon. Stir that in, and that's just going to really get that yeast going. Okay, so I'm just going to set that aside for a minute and just let that start to react. And what you want to see is on the top of your, if I can just get that close there, on the top layer here, you're going to just start to see it frothing, and that's what you want. If you see it nice frothing and bubbly, that means that the yeast is active and it's doing its job. So just be patient, just wait for it to happen. Obviously, if you've been waiting 2 hours and it's not happening, then your yeast is bad. So maybe not even wait 2 hours, because that's not really that productive. The yeast has started to work. I'm just going to show you that now. If you can see that there, that little line there, nice frothy, and that shows us that that's working, so that's great. Okay, so we've got our bowl of flour. Just going to make a well in the middle. Before we add the water, I'm just going to add a little bit of salt. I'd say around about a teaspoon, but I'm just going to go for a generous pinch. And what I'm going to do is, this is flaked salt. It's not, I mean, always stay away from table salt, it's just horrible. But if you've got flaked salt, then what I would do is put it through a sieve and just rub it with the back of your hand through the sieve, and just that way you're just not going to get any hard lumps of salt, just in case when you've kneaded your bread that salt hasn't dissolved properly, then you're going to end up with a big lump of salt in your mouth, which won't be very nice. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to start pouring the yeast mixture into the middle of the bowl, and as it goes in, I'm just going to use one hand, using a circular motion. I'm just going to start mixing that flour in with the liquid. Once you've got to a certain point, you can just start mixing it in. If I can get this so you can see it there. So you're just swirling your hand around, just bringing the yeast and the water and the flour together. And once that water is absorbed into the flour, then you just want to add a little bit more. I'm just going to show you the consistency of that now. So it's very, very sticky at the moment, but that's fine. Flour your work surface. I'm going to pull my bread dough out onto the work surface. This stage where I've done it in the bowl, you could actually just do that whole stage on the work surface if you want to. It gets a little bit more tricky as you're swirling your hand on the work surface. If you crack that surrounding barrier of flour, then your liquid's going to pour out maybe over the side of your work surface. So maybe it's not best to do that the first time round, but if you want to, go for it. It won't make much more difference. And now I'm just going to start kneading the dough. Okay? There's no exact science to kneading dough. Good stress relief, quite good relaxing kind of action. Good thinking time when you're making bread. So all I do, this is my method anyway, and I find it works for me, is I'll hold one end of the dough, and then with the palm of my hand, I'll just push it away and stretch it, and you'll see the dough tear. And as you see it tear, I'm not sure if I can show this, you can see all those textures in there. Those are the tears that are going to give you that lovely bread texture. And then you're folding it back on itself. I just roll it over. So you're trapping all of those little pockets in the dough. So it's going to keep on going now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the dough into a bowl. I'm just going to lightly oil the bowl. Spread the oil around the back of my hand. And then just put some flour in that bowl. And I'm just shaking the bowl around with the flour so the flour sticks to the oil. And then when you put your dough in there, it just stops it from sticking, so you can get it out again really easily. Okay, and one last thing. What we're going to do is we're going to slit the dough in a crisscross. That's going to help it rise. And I'm just going to see if I can show you something. Okay, the way to test your dough, and you're probably not going to be able to see it on the camera here, is you just press your finger into it and you should see it bounce back. Don't push your finger right through it because then it won't bounce back, but just a small press and you should just see it bounce back with resistance, and that means you've got all the gluten working in there. So that's a good test. Okay, I'm just going to give that a good slice through the side there. Like that. And also inside, when you've sliced it open, you probably noticed that there's a few little air pockets and bubbles in there, and that's also a good sign. I'm just going to cling film it over as well. It just helps it rise. Just lightly though, nothing too tight, because if it does rise a lot, I don't want the cling film to push it back down again. Okay, and now what we're going to do is just put it in your oven or airing cupboard. And you can see there, bread is actually coming right out of the bowl. So I'm just going to take that cling film off. See there, all all that lovely texture that's going to be in your bread. Just get my plain flour out again. The flour on my hands. Okay, I'm just going to take this out of your bowl. Should come out fairly easily because I've oiled it. And now we're just going to basically give it a quick bash just to get that air out of it. Give it a punch, roll it around, basically giving it a very quick knead, no more than about a minute. Just like that. Now I'm just going to lightly flour a baking tray, but I have got one of these sort of Bako Glide covers on there, which definitely advise getting some of those, they're great. Just going to lightly flour that, pick up my bread, and I'm actually going to shape it on the tray. Just going to flatten it out. Bear in mind that it's going to rise again and double in its size, so you don't want to flatten this bread out to the entire size of your tray, because when it doubles it's going to start coming over your tray. So it's got about a thickness of, it's about ½ an inch at the moment. Okay, so once you've got your bread like that, what I've made over the side here is a mixture of extra virgin olive oil and some chopped up rosemary. And I'm just going to pour that over the dough mixture. Just going to give it a good rub. You're just going to start pushing in with your fingers, making those nice holes and then almost injecting that oil and rosemary into your bread. It smells amazing. Okay, and so I'm going to set that aside. We're not going to put that one back in the oven or the airing cupboard because the second rise isn't quite as hard to get as the first one. So we're just going to leave that on the side. You still need to keep it in a warm room, out of the draft, and it should rise double its size again, and probably about ½ an hour. Okay, I've just got my bread out of the oven, and you can tell your bread's done. It's got a nice brown crust on the top there, and if I take it off of the tray, just be careful because it will be really hot. You're looking for a nice hollow sound. When you knock it, you should hear that hollow sound coming through. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just put that on a baking rack to cool. It's really important that you put your bread on a baking rack, because if you don't, it's going to end up going all really soggy on the bottom and it'll be absolutely ruined, complete waste of your time. Stick it on the baking rack, wait for it to cool down, and then you're ready to go. Just to finish that off, we're just going to get some extra virgin olive oil, some more salt, and just going to generously drizzle some oil over the top, and just do it while it's warm, and it's going to soak all that oil into the bread, and it'll be absolutely delicious. It smells wonderful, and just a nice generous sprinkling of the salt over the top. Keep it quite coarse, nice and rustic, that's what the spread's about. I'm just going to go a little bit more oil over the top. And that'll be absolutely gorgeous. Either just served on its own, or I've made sandwiches out of it before. Just slice it through. Mozzarella, tomato, basil, rocket. Absolutely gorgeous.